This week, the Australian Leadership Project was joined by Federal MP Tim Wilson, the member for Goldstein. In a passionate and evocative interview on Australian leadership, he also shared his views on adversity and how it had helped form the leadership of great Australian leaders Sir Robert Menzies, John Howard and Sir John Monash.
Stories. One of the things we love more than anything is a bit of adversity, and it's a bit of everyone who's been successful, I think, in modern political life has had to have their tyres kicked from time to time by the public, which means that you've often had to fail and demonstrate your failing and demonstrate your contrition from your failure to then be able to go on and be successful. And if you look at, say, for instance, obviously Robert Menzies, who's a great political hero of mine, in the 40s had a very difficult, or 30s and 40s had a very difficult time leading a political party, losing control of it, having to demonstrate to the public that he understood why he had been unsuccessful, but then went on to be Australia's longest serving Prime Minister. Very similar experience with John Howard, opposition leader in the 80s. Let's just say he got a few things wrong. He identified and recognised that and found a way to bridge the divide between himself and the public. But adversity has always been a very important part of developing that sense of leadership in Australia, and in many ways it's character, because it also, by demonstrating contrition, recognises that you are not the ultimate force. If you want a society based on egalitarianism as well as leaders who understand egalitarianism, you sometimes have to bare your soul to the public to be able to shift and change. But one of my other great heroes and somebody who's done something, who did many extraordinary things, was Sir John Monash. And Sir John Monash, what I love about him and what his contribution was, isn't just what most people know him for, which was his war service and his leadership of the Australian forces in the First World War, but that he applied the skills and knowledge of leadership through different facets of his life, like introducing, and it might seem mundane today, but at the time it was revolutionary, introducing reinforced concrete as an engineer into Australia and Victoria, then shifting to his war service and his leadership there. But then when he came back to Australia after the war, he did a number of exceptional things, including the foundation of the State Electricity Commission, which led ultimately to Victoria using its fuel reserves to create electricity that fed Melbourne and developed modern industrial Melbourne. But he didn't just do that. There were times after the war, during the Great Police Strike, where he was turned to by the public and called upon not just to serve to re-establish order, but then people gave him the temptation of the ultimate prize, which was to run a state and a country without democratic means. But he had faith in democracy and a well-educated population. And so it was this capacity to have all, but to sacrifice it and to give it up for the will of everybody. And in the end, that's essential if you want to be successful, but I think if you want to maintain that integrity for why the reason people turn to you in the first place.
And it's a big thank you to Tim Wilson for sharing his wisdom on Australian leadership. You're invited to share your stories of Australian leadership. Please go to www.australianleadership.com. You'll find a wealth of material there that you can use, and we'd be really grateful if you would share your stories too.